All right, today we're talking about assignment 8.2, normal distributions. This first section is just a review of some stuff that you hopefully have already learned. So a class received the following quiz scores, and here they are. We've been asked to find the mean, median, mode, and standard deviation. So mean, remember, is the average, and we find it by adding all the numbers together and dividing by how many there are. Median is the middle number, so we would have to put the numbers in order and then figure out which one's in the exact middle. Mode is the number that shows up the most, and standard deviation measures the spread. There's a formula we can use to find standard deviation, but it's actually a very long formula. So instead of doing that for all of these things, I'm just going to go ahead and head over to Excel and have Excel do the math for me. So here's my Excel spreadsheet, and you notice I've already entered our values. So the first thing we've been asked for is the mean, or the average. Now, to have Excel tell me the mean, I'm going to start with an equal sign. That tells Excel that there's something I'm asking it to solve, some equation I want it to solve for me. And then Excel doesn't use the word mean, it actually uses the word average. So I'm going to start typing the word average, and you notice it pops up in my drop-down menu. So then I'm going to go ahead and tell Excel which numbers I want the average of. So I'm going to highlight my first value, and then just pull this little box down until it's highlighted all of my numbers. And Excel tells me that the mean of this data set is 6.5. Next is the median. So again, I start with the equal sign so that Excel knows I want it to calculate something. And then I start typing in the word median and see it pops up here in my drop-down menu. Again, I have to tell Excel what values I would like the median of. So I'm going to select my first value and then just drag this box down so that it highlights all my numbers. And here I can see that the median is 7. Now Excel can't find the mode, so we're going to have to figure that one out on our own, but standard deviation it can do. So I type equals again so that Excel knows I want it to calculate something, and then I'm going to start typing in ST for standard, and notice how it pops up with STDev, which stands for standard deviation. So once again, I have to tell Excel which numbers I want the standard deviation of. So I select my first value, and then I just drag this little box down so that it highlights all my numbers. And Excel tells me that the standard deviation is 2.22. So now I know the mean is 6.5, median is 7, and standard deviation is 2.22. So I'm going to copy that over on my assignment. The mean was 6.5, the mean was 7, and the standard deviation was 2.22. Now mode, remember, is the number that shows up the most in my data set. So looking at this data set, I can see that I have several 7s. That's the number that shows up the most. So I'm going to write down that my mode is also 7. In this next section, it says, use the normal distribution to answer the following questions. So we're being asked to find the percent underneath this curve, and this is a normal curve. And as you may recall from assignment 8.1, if something is distributed normally, then the percentages shown in this picture here will always apply. Every single normal distribution has these same percentages. That's what makes it normal. So we can use those percentages anytime we have something that's normally distributed. So if we look, for example, here at problem 6, we have a normal distribution, and we want to know what percent of the data is in our highlighted portion. So in this first section right here, I can see by looking at my picture that that is 0.135, or in other words, 13.5% of the data falls in that little section of my graph. I also have this section here highlighted, and in looking at my percentages, I can see that 0.20235, or in other words, 2.35% of my data falls into this little section right here. So if I want to know how much is in both of them, I'm going to add my percentages together. So I have 13.5% plus 2.35%. And you can go ahead and do that on your own if you want, but I'm going to type it into my calculator. So here in my calculator, I have 13.5, come on, plus 2.35. And my calculator says that that is 15.85%. So then I know that 15.85% of my data falls into this pink highlighted area of my graph. So now that you've seen that, go ahead and try the first page of this assignment. Once you've finished it, tune into my next video where I'll talk about page 2.